The future is now for a pair of young NHL stars. We had a wild, controversial finish in Dallas, and the Rangers are back on the road. Would that equal another win? Details coming up on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans. Welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs. We are available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan out on the West Coast, going solo for this show, but I'm here to get you caught up on all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from a big night in the NHL with a big assist from some of our local Locked On experts. And it has been a very interesting and eventful NHL season so far, and a big part of that has been the young talent in the NHL turning into superstars before our eyes, and that includes Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks and Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's start tonight in the Bay Area, where the Sharks were taking on the Mammoth. Utah playing on back-to-back nights after a very difficult 3-2 overtime loss in Anaheim Monday night, where they let the Ducks tie it up, and then they won it in overtime. Unfortunately for the Mammoth, somewhat similar fate in this one. It was the same 3-2 overtime loss, this time at the hands of the Sharks and Macklin Celebrini. Let's check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On San Jose Sharks, and that's JD Young.
Macklin Celebrini does it again, this time an overtime game-winning goal for his third of the night as the Sharks win 3-2 to the Utah Mammoth. Celebrini, you're getting this feeling anytime the Sharks need something clutch. He continues to deliver time and time again. The Sharks got out to a very quick 2-0 lead 6 minutes into this game, tried to park the bus for most of the game, but Utah was able to climb back in it. Askarov did give up a soft one, but other than that, played very well in this game. But as we've seen time and time again, when the Sharks need a big goal, Macklin Celebrini continues to deliver. The 19-year-old now has 30 points in 20 games for the San Jose Sharks. So we'll break down this game on your next episode of Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well.
All right, thanks to JD Young for that report. And he mentioned the Sharks getting off to that early 2-0 lead. Both the goals, of course, scored by Macklin Celebrini. The first one, a great passing play, Kurashev to Smith to Celebrini into the net. That was on their first shot of the game. And then Celebrini gets his 12th of the year on a breakaway. That was on their third shot of the game. And then it goes overtime. Utah did come back to tie it up, but a too many men on the ice penalty in overtime gave the Sharks a power play opportunity, and Celebrini ends it with his 13th of the year, a wrist shot from in between the face-off circles. His second hat trick of the season, third of his career, and 30 points now on the season for Macklin Celebrini, tied with Connor McDavid for second most in the league. And he, like Connor Bedard, has 13 goals. They're one back of Nathan MacKinnon for the league lead. We'll talk more about Bedard's night in just a second. Yaroslav Askarov in net for San Jose, as JD mentioned, did have a nice night. He did the game tying goal was a soft one, but overall 2 goals allowed on 26 shots. He's 5-1 in his last 6 starts in San Jose, 9-8-3 on the season. But remember, they lost their first 6 games of the year. They're now 9-4-1 since then. As for Utah, this wasn't the same as the loss to Anaheim. They did come back with 2 J.J. Peterka third period goals to tie it. For Peterka, goals 7 and 8 on the season. But unfortunately, the costly penalty, too many men in overtime, and they are not able to get the extra point in this one. Vitek Vanacek, the number 2 goaltender starting in this one, he allowed 3 goals on 22 shots. And for Utah, they fall to 10-7-3, back-to-back tough losses in overtime for the Mammoth. Let's check in the Windy City, where the Blackhawks were taking on the Flames. Calgary, the team with the fewest points in the NHL, They were in Chicago taking on a rejuvenated Blackhawks team and also a rejuvenated Connor Bedard this year. And he leads the Hawks to a 5-2 victory. We check in with the host of Locked On Chicago Blackhawks, and that's Jack Bushman.
Bedard, with his second hat trick of the season, lifts the Blackhawks to a 5-2 win over the Calgary Flames. It's actually the second time in the last 11 days that the Hawks have put out the Flames, and it was Connor Bedard's second hat trick in the last 10 games as well. He now has 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points during that 10-game stretch, and the Blackhawks also have a 6-2-2 record during it. The Hawks have now won 5 of their last 6 and have points in 6 games in a row for the first time since 2019. This young group keeps on rolling here as they're now up to 10-5-4 through 19 games on the season. For more thoughts on Bedard's big night and the Blackhawks win, tune into tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks.
Thanks to Jack Bushman for that. Nice to see him out there at the United Center for this one. Connor Bedard with the hat trick as well, just like Macklin Celebrini. His first one was a flip down the ice. He wins the race to the puck. Unfortunately for Calgary goaltender Dustin Wolf, he tried to sweep it away from Bedard. He whiffed on it, and then Bedard one-handed it past him for the 2-0 lead for Chicago, his 11th of the year at that point. Bedard's 12th of the year was a wicked little wrist shot from the left faceoff circle, and then he ends it with an empty net goal for his 13th of the season and the hat trick. Second hat trick of this season, second of his career. 29 points now on the season for Connor Bedard, third most in the NHL, and as I mentioned earlier, 13 goals for him, second only to Nathan McKinnon's 14, but tied with Macklin Celebrini. Those two guys are absolutely putting on a show so far this season. Arvid Soderblom got the start in net for Chicago. He allowed 2 goals on 21 shots. Chicago now 10-5-4, and they've won 5 of their last 6. As for Calgary, the struggles continue. They did get a Matt Coronado power play goal. Rasmus Anderson scored as well. Dustin Wolf, though, coming off that Calder Trophy finalist season, they keep putting him out there, and he keeps battling, but not getting a lot of support as well. And he's not playing as well as he did a year ago. 4 goals allowed on 22 shots, and the Flames' tough season continues. 5-13-3 now for Calgary. Talked about Chicago has won 5 of 6. Well, the Flames have now dropped 5 of their last 6 games. Coming up, we have a game in Dallas between the Stars and Islanders, and the finish had so many layers to it. It may take us a while to get to it. We'll get into it, though, next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms or in-person appointments. It prescribes your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL, and you'll get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, let's get into a wild one down in Big D as the Stars were hosting the Islanders, and a crazy finish in this one that had a little bit of everything. Let's get right to it and check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On New York Islanders, and that is Gil Martin.
The New York Islanders score a dramatic and crazy 3-2 win over the Dallas Stars in Dallas. Dallas appeared to tie the game with less than 1 second left on the clock, but replays showed clearly there was goaltender interference, and the Islanders escaped with the 3-2 win. Lots of controversy throughout the third period of this game with some questionable penalty calls, including a 10-minute misconduct on Bo Horvat, but the Islanders turned the tables and scored a shorthanded goal by Kyle Palmieri that helped them emerge. Lots of interesting questions, including a possible suspension coming to Mikko Rantanen for a late hit on Alexander Romanov. this one is not over as far as the consequences are concerned. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast.
And thanks to Gil Martin for that. So good job by Gil of trying to do the best he could. I'll try and add to that as well. But we had a controversy on what we thought was the game tying goal. And as Gil mentioned, literally as time expired, there was a collision in front of the net. And there were two things trying to be figured out. Number one, did the puck cross the goal line before the zeros struck on the clock? It did, barely, but it did. About as close as you could possibly have, with Wyatt Johnston scoring seemingly to tie it up. And then goaltender David Rittich, the number 2 goalie for the Islanders getting the start in this one, was flat on his back. There was a collision with him and Jason Robertson. Rittich was waving his arm saying that's no goal. And they go to video review. It's an automatic review. There's no coach's challenge in that situation because it's in the final couple of minutes of the game. And there was definitely contact with Jason Robertson. However, there was also contact from Ryan Pulock, the defenseman for the Islanders. He hit Robertson into David Rittich. However, Jason Robertson also entered the crease on his own. And usually when that happens, the rest of it is kind of out the window. And I think that's what the NHL ruled, that Robertson on his own went into the crease. Yes, he was contacted into David Rittich, but because he went into the crease on his own, they called it no goal on goalie interference, and the Islanders hold on for a dramatic victory. Now, just moments before that, there was another controversy in this one. Mikko Rantanen runs Alexander Romanov dangerously into the boards. Romanov was immediately injured. Rantanen was called for a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. We'll see if maybe there's a suspension coming from that. It was one of those dangerous plays where he saw the player's number, he gave him the bump, and he goes violently into the boards. Islanders coach Patrick Roy was irate. You could hear him screaming loudly over the game broadcast microphones from the bench as he was screaming at the Dallas Stars bench, upset at what Mikko Rantanen did and screaming at Rantanen as well. So that certainly, and so Dallas was actually shorthanded. They pulled the goalie when they scored that seemingly tying goal in this one. Overall, though, another solid game from Jason Robertson in this one, who has been very, very good. He had 2 goals and a losing effort for Dallas, numbers 10 and 11 on the season. He has 8 goals and 12 points in his last 5 games, and also, of course, was involved in the final controversy as well. David Rittich allowed 2 goals on 24 shots. He made a huge save on Jason Robertson in the final minutes to deny him the hat trick. Islanders improved to 11-7-2 and are 5-1 on their current road trip. As for the Dallas Stars, they had Jake Ottinger in net, 3 goals allowed on 22 shots. They fall to 12-5-3 as their 5-game winning streak comes to an end, and they lose in Jamie Benn's season debut for them. Let's move on to Toronto, where the Maple Leafs are taking on the Blues, 2 struggling teams going toe-to-toe in this one. Leafs, of course, have a huge spotlight on them. They've lost 5 in a row going into this game. No Austin Matthews. Matthew Nyes was a late scratch in this one. Head coach Greg Berube just got the dreaded vote of confidence from GM Brad Treliving. San Jose, of course, doesn't want to hear about the Leafs struggles, as they have just 3 wins in their last 14 games going into this one. As far as this one, it was tied 2-2 going into overtime when the Leafs' 2 best players got Toronto a much-needed 3-2 victory. Let's check in with our host, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs, and that is David Morsuti.
The losing streak is over as the Toronto Maple Leafs earn a 3-2 victory over the St. Louis Blues. I'm David Morsuti from the Locked On Leafs podcast, and it was William Nylander who got the overtime winner, but big credit goes to John Tavares as he had to fend off all 3 St. Louis Blues players in the defensive zone, had him pinned against the boards. He did what he could to get the puck to the defenseman who found Nylander streaking down, and he made an unreal move to beat Jordan Binnington. A much better effort for the Leafs tonight as they finally ended their 5-game losing streak. Joseph Woll was great in net once again, and it was some good efforts from some of the younger players. Jake Cullen and Easton Cowan both looked great in this game, and just, you know, an overall better night. Troy Stecher looked pretty good in his debut. I'll discuss that on the Locked On Leafs podcast. I have a few extra guests join me, so make sure you tune in wherever you get your podcast from. It is Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks to David Morisuti for that report. An eventful night for William Nylander as he scored the first goal of the game. Unfortunately, it was in his own net as he knocked the puck out of the air just a minute 50 in, and St. Louis grabbed the 1-0 lead. I'm sure Leafs fans are thinking, oh, God, here we go again. But Toronto did battle their way back. No goals in the third period in this one, as we had, just like in Dallas, we go overtime. By the way, saw a graphic during this Leafs telecast, 28.7% of games this year have gone to overtime. That's the highest percentage since the NHL adopted overtime. But as David mentioned, in the overtime, William Nylander, his 9th of the year, ends in a gorgeous goal, toe drag around one defender, and then a second move around the goalie's pads, and he tucks it in. But again, as David said, huge props to John Tavares. All 3 St. Louis Blues players in overtime were taking him on because the other 2 Toronto players went for a line change. He was in the corner battling it out, and he kept the puck in his skates the whole time and then kicked it to Morgan Rielly, who then fed William Nylander going to the net, and he scored. So John Tavares with the great play on that one. David also mentioned Joseph Woll, the goaltender in this one for Toronto, his second start of the season. He gets the win. He's 2-0 on the year. And the Leafs, well, this win doesn't solve all their problems, and it was over a struggling St. Louis team, but they needed this win. 9-2-2 now on the season for the Leafs. As for St. Louis, yes, their struggles obviously continuing in this one. Jordan Binnington, 3 goals allowed on 29 shots as they fall to 6-9-5 overall. And again, now 3 wins in their last 15 games. At least they do get a point out of it. Would say also congratulations to Blues defenseman Justin Falk, who played in his 1,000th career game in that one. Moving on, we had the Lightning hosting the Devils. New Jersey was able to squeak out a shootout win over Washington in their first game without star Jack Hughes, who got hurt in that freak accident, cut his hand while out at a team dinner. But unfortunately for the Devils, taking on the Lightning in Tampa was not one that they could get a victory in. A 5-0 victory for the Lightning, thanks to another hat trick on the night. This one from Jake Gensel of Tampa Bay. He scored his 9th of the year on a breakaway. That was in the first period. Second period, he redirects a puck from the side of the net on the power play for his 10th of the year. And then in the third period, carbon copy of his second goal, power play goal, redirecting the puck in from the side of the net. 11th goal on the season, 3rd goal on the night, and 8th career hat trick for Jake Gensel. At least in the regular season, he's got 2 playoff hat tricks as well. Andre Vasilevsky was solid in net for Tampa Bay, 1 goal out on 32 shots. Lightning are 10-7-2 now in the season, but remember they started the year slow, 1-4-2. Since then, they are 9-3. As for New Jersey, obviously it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, life without Jack Hughes. Also a struggle for the host of Locked On New Jersey Devils, and that is Zach Bierman.
6 hours in the car, one very unfortunate hockey game, and now I am stuck at a Wawa somewhere in Tampa. I'm charging my car. I'm also pinned into the charging spot because of a truck that's blocking me. Yeah, it's been that kind of day. The New Jersey Devils lose in Tampa 5-1. Jacob Markstrom was dreadful tonight. I did not like the contract when it was announced a day after he gave up 8 goals to the Colorado Avalanche. I don't really know what they're going to do I don't know what to do with him right now because he's unplayable. They miss Jack Hughes desperately. They actually played pretty decent at 5v5 tonight. Vasilevsky was peak Vasilevsky, as naturally he was going to be after struggling the last little bit. It's one game. I trust this team character-wise to flush it, but between the way the goaltending's playing and just the injury situation forward without Jack, I don't feel so great about the current state of this team. And the next 2 months, I worry, could be pretty dicey, especially given that I'm not expecting Tom Fitzgerald to make a move for center. I mean, I don't really know if they can because of financial constraints. So I'll get into it deeper tonight. I'll do a full game recap once I get settled in my hotel. But yeah, it was a rough one. Hopefully they flush it and come back out better on Thursday.
Well, we wish Zach all the best in getting to his hotel after witnessing that one firsthand. I feel like we need to, support Jack a little bit, sound a little down there. And I get it. It's going to be tough for the Devils going without Jack Hughes, but I will say at least Jack Hughes isn't out for the season. Yes, it's going to be 7-8 weeks, but he still will come back at some point. The Devils have banked a lot of points so far this year. I think they'll be okay. And I think Zach was a little hard on Jacob Markstrom, giving up a lot of goals, especially power play goals to Tampa Bay. I mean, it's a little understandable. So we'll see. New Jersey now 13-5-1 on the season. We talked about young stars in Chicago and San Jose. We had Detroit being led by some rookies, and the Rangers are back in their happy place with that equal a road win. That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next point to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bet into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's head to Motown, where the Red Wings were taking on the Kraken. Seattle starting a 4-game road trip on a losing note as Detroit gets a 4-2 win behind a couple of rookies. Let's check in with our local expert, one of the hosts of Locked On Detroit Red Wings, and that is Brian Fisher.
Nate Danielson picks up his first career NHL goal in a 4-2 win over the Seattle Kraken. He was all over the place in this game. The amount of poise that this young player has in just his, fourth, fifth NHL game is unreal. And he was finally awarded with some offense in this one. Obviously, double deflection goes off his shin into the net. You go to the net, good things happen. People may bemoan that type of goal for your first ever NHL goal, but that's what happens when you crash the net. He had another beautiful goal he scored where he just went right around Deckard and tucked it in far side, but unfortunately that was called back for offside. Emmett Finney also got a power play goal assisted by Nate Danielson. ASP assisted on Danielson's. It was all 2023 draft picks in this one. And then Dylan Larkin sealed the deal with an empty net goal to give him his 600th career points. So the youth certainly dominate this win.
All right. Thanks to Brian Fisher for that report, the host of Locked On Detroit Red Wings. Nate Danielson, first-round pick of the Red Wings, 9th overall in 2023. He actually scored another goal after his first goal, but it was wiped away on an offsides challenge. And Emmett Finney, another rookie, he was a 7th-round pick, I believe, back. So he was not expected to be doing what he's doing, but he's got 5 goals now in the year. He gets a power play goal that ends up being the game winner. And Brian mentioned Dylan Larkin getting his 600th career point with an empty net goal. He is the 11th Detroit Red Wing to reach 600 career points. Cam Talbot in net allowed 2 goals on 22 shots as Detroit improves to 12-7-1. They've won 3 of 4. They got points in 4 straight, and they are now, right now, in first place in the Atlantic Division. They are 1 point up on the Boston Bruins. As for Seattle, they got a Jordan Eberle goal, his 8th of the year. Riker Evans scored. Joey Decourt allowed 3 goals on 26 shots in the loss. Seattle drops to 9-5-5 on the season. Let's head to Sin City, where the Golden Knights were hosting the Rangers. New York back in their happy place on the road, where they came in tied for the most road wins in the NHL at 9-1-1. Head coach Mike Sullivan was back with the team after being away for personal reasons. Rangers, though, unable to get a win as they were taking on a Golden Knights squad that came in struggling, having lost 5 of 6. But Vegas comes away with a 3-2 victory. Let's check in with one of our local experts, the host, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, and that is Chris Golick.
Vegas Golden Knights hold on to defeat the New York Rangers.
Go Rangers!
By a score of 3-2. A very good 60-minute effort by the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of up and back in today's game. A lot of fun. Rangers, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League on the road. Golden Knights needed a full 60-minute effort. Theodore, Hutton, and who else scored a goal? Oh, Braden Bowman. Braden Bowman gets another goal. Very good in Mark Stone's absence. Folks, check out the Locked On Vegas Golden Knight podcast on YouTube and anywhere you catch your podcast, your team every day.
All right, thanks to Chris Golick, and I assume that was his son in the Rangers sweater. If you're watching on YouTube, leaving the fortress there in Vegas after that 3-2 victory by the Golden Knights. He talked about Braden Bowman. He gets his second goal on the power play, rebound put back off a point shot, and then Shea Theodore scored on the power play to ice it, his third of the year, just a wrist shot from some distance in front of Igor Shesterkin. There was some traffic. His glove was contacted on that goal, but he was outside the crease, as was the player that made contact with his glove, so there was no goalie interference call on that one. So Vegas gets the win. Akira Schmid in net as Vegas is trying to stay afloat with a couple of, frankly, goaltenders that won't be on their roster probably in a few months if things work out as health-wise. But Akira Schmid doing his best, 2 goals allowed on 19 shots in that one. And Vegas now 9-4-6 on the year. For the New York Rangers, their 7-game road winning streak comes to an end. They got 2 goals, one from Johnny Brodzinski, his second, and Vincent Trocheck, his third of the year. Igor Shesterkin allowed 3 goals on 26 shots as the Rangers dropped to 10-9-2 on the season. And that brings us to our final game of the night up in Winnipeg, where the Jets were hosting the Blue Jackets. Tough one for Columbus, playing on back-to-back nights, and they had to travel from Columbus to Winnipeg for this second game. And the night before, they let one slip away against Montreal. They were able to salvage the extra point with the shootout win, but they let the lead slip away in the third period. All's well that ends well, I guess. But in this one, there was no lead for the Blue Jackets to relinquish, as they never held the lead, as Winnipeg gets the 5-2 victory. Captain Adam Lowry gets the first goal of the game for the Jets, and his first of the season, coming back from that big injury that he had during the offseason. Speedy defenseman Josh Morrissey gets his 4th of the year, set up nicely by Mark Scheifele. Neil Pionk, his first of the year on the power play. Kyle Connor, his 11th, just a crafty shot off of the shoulder of Elvis Merzlikins and into the net. And even Logan Stanley gets into the mix with a blast from the point, his 3rd of the year. Battle of backup goalies in this one. Eric Comrie for Winnipeg allowed 2 goals on 22 shots. He's 4-1 on the season when he sees rare starts in place of Connor Hellebuck. And the Winnipeg Jets get 3 assists from Mark Scheifele. And in this game, it was career game number 898 for him. He passes Blake Wheeler to become the franchise's all-time leader in games played. Of course, it's this version of the Winnipeg Jets that came from Atlanta, not the earlier version of the Jets that moved to Arizona and are now in Utah. Anyway, Winnipeg is now 12-7 on the season. For Columbus, Miles Wood gets his 5th of the year. Zach Werenski his 6th for his 400th career point. Elvis Merzlikins allowed 5 goals on 30 shots in the loss. Kirill Marchenko's 12-game point streak comes to an end, as Columbus's 5-game point streak also comes to an end. Blue Jackets are now 10-8-2 on the season. Fun night in the NHL. We had several hat tricks. We had several overtime games, controversial finishes, a lot going on in the National Hockey League. You are now up to date on everything that happened Tuesday night in the NHL. If you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL show and YouTube show and podcast for every team in the NHL except one, Calgary, but we're working on it. There's also this show for you each and every night, Locked On NHL Game Night, throughout the regular season and the playoffs, wrapping up the night in the NHL. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We also would love to hear your thoughts on everything that happened tonight in the NHL in the comments section. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.